All right, just a reminder to turn off your cameras, please. If you are not an Opioid Abatement Council member, you might get a text from a staff member at the Opioid Abatement Council to turn off your camera. We try to keep it uncluttered so that the guests can focus in on the Opioid Abatement Council members. And we will get started at around 11:30.
Miss Mary, this is Dr. Hanks with Priority Health. Is it appropriate? Can I ask a quick question?
I mean, we have public comment at the very end.
Okay,
is it possible to wait till then?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay.
I won't forget.
All right, we have a few people who are joining who are not Opioid Abatement Council members. If you could please turn off your camera. Mike, hi, how are you?
Marion, looking at our response list, did it look like we were going to have everybody, or just somebody for sure we know not going to be here?
I've not heard from anyone who's not going to be here.
Okay.
All right, hate to do this, but I'm going to ask a few people to turn off their videos. Let's hear Colleen, if you could turn off your video. And some of you may not even know that it's on. And then we have meeting guest. If you could turn off your video. Hi, Ken.
It's hard to hear me when I'm muted, so hey, everybody.
Hello.
Stephen reads lips, though, so he knew exactly what I was saying.
Dr. Moore, you look very festive today, so thank you for that.
Trying to cheer you up.
All right, welcome to all of our guests. We're happy that you are here with us today. As a reminder, if you are not an Opioid Abatement Council member, please turn off your video. We do have a few people who have their videos on that are not Opioid Abatement Council members. Let's see here. Lisa, hey, how are you? Let's do a mic check.
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing great. Let's hear Colleen Mall, if you could turn off your video. And then we have another meeting guest. If you could turn off your video, please. Hey, Casey, how's it going?
Hello. Good, how are you?
Hello. All right. Let's see here. And Armando, good afternoon.
Hello. Good to see you all.
Good to see you, Armando.
All right, Christopher McNeil, if you could turn off your video for us, thank you. That'll keep it focused on the Opioid Abatement Council members. Thank you. All right, let's see here. I want to make sure I'm not missing someone. Sharm Allen, are you on? There. Awesome.
I just got here. Sorry.
No, you're right on time. Thank you. Let's see here. Clay Jackson. Stephanie Vanterpool. You know, our two practicing physicians are usually back to back. And is Tommy Farmer on? All right. So Steve, Clay, Stephanie, and Tommy have not joined us yet.
Well, I haven't talked to any of them, but I would think that Clay and Stephanie will join as soon as they get done with their patients. Stephanie's should be about 12:30 there, and Clay, it's right in the heart right before he gets to lunch. But if he hadn't reached out to us, I know he'll be on as well.
All right, so I will turn it over to you when you would like to get us started.
All right. Good morning and afternoon to everyone. Since we are all in 2 time zones, it's good to see everybody. And before we get into the heart of the meeting and get started, I'd like to open in the traditional way, if that's okay, with just a moment of silence to help us gather our thoughts as we think about hurting families in the great state of Tennessee. Thank you. So before I get into what I want to, my introductory remarks here, and I have just a couple, if you'll bear with me a little bit, I do want to acknowledge we did this when General Allen ran for re-election in Knoxville and was placed back in office. And so since we met last, our beloved Mayor Dr. Ken Moore has won re-election to his office out in Williamson County. So we're grateful for that, Dr. Moore, and still, always question your sanity of wanting to be involved in that. With that said, we certainly are glad you are, and we're glad that there are people like you. So congratulations. I followed every second of it. If I could have came out and voted for you, I would have. So I've got just a few remarks I want to make this morning and just kind of where I am a little bit and kind of give you a little bit of flavor of where we're headed here today. And I read this quote this morning. It says, "I want to have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary." And that's a quote by Steve Jobs. So I want you all to know that we're working in a really challenging space. It's unbelievably rewarding, and there's also unspeakable frustration. For me, it tests my patience with myself. It tests my patience with others. Sometimes I get angry. I get angry at myself. I get angry at others. And I'm kind of in that space a little bit right now today. And it's no one's fault, and it's not towards anyone. I want everything that we do and that I do to be right. I want it to be proper. I want it to be ethical. I want it to be legal. I mean, it has to be those things. So at our October meeting, I had a proposal about flooding the state with Narcan. And instead of using the word Narcan from here on in, I'm going to use overdose reversal drugs because there's multiples on the market, and I don't want to use a trade name, but I wanted everybody to know that. And I think people were in agreement that it sounded like a good idea, although we didn't vote on it, but we don't have a process. And I always told you guys, 14 heads are better than one. And, I'm thankful to Shane Sexton and some of the others that said, Steve, we need to stick to our process, have an emergency process in place. And so today we're going to vote on that emergency process. And I know it's exactly as it needs to be. And I was hoping that could get done in between now and the emergency meeting that we're having today, because one of the reasons for the emergency meeting was indeed that proposal. But there are barriers beyond our control that's not going to allow that to happen. And I can't tell you that I'm not disappointed in that. I'm not upset at anybody. I'm just telling you that I'm disappointed that we can't do that today. And in the world of COVID, there was this term that came about that I grew to hate. It was called an abundance of caution. We're going to do things out of an abundance of caution. And I grew to where I detested that phrase. And I'm kind of a place right now in my life and my career and what we're doing is I'm really in a place of abundance of urgency. Tornadoes moved through Middle Tennessee this past weekend, here not far from where I live. We lost 6 Tennesseans to multiple tornadoes that touched down in Nashville and just north of Nashville. In my neighborhood, our sirens went off and we were huddled inside of our homes in the inner rooms, and it was scary. The next day, up in our neighbors in Clarksville and Madison, Tennessee, we had multiple political officials show up, including our governor, Bill Lee. My friend Megan Berry was up in Clarksville, and, letting people know that we see the disaster that struck them and that we're there and that they know that their friends and neighbors are there to help them. I mean, it's what we do as a community and what we do in Tennessee. And I love that. But I'm telling you that we've got a tornado of overdoses that are going to hit Tennessee today. We're going to lose about 8 Tennesseans today. And tomorrow we're going to lose another 8. And the next day after that, we're going to lose another 8. And Christmas Day, we're going to lose 8. And New Year's Day, we're going to lose 8. And we don't have people showing up in these families' homes, letting them know that we're here for them. And I would challenge our council that that's what we are. That we need to let them know that we're here for them, that we know that they're afraid, and we know that people are dying. And we're going to do our due diligence to do the best we can to spend our money in a way that's going to help them. I get scared sometimes that we get numb to the numbers. When you see a tornado and a bunch of rubble out in the street, it moves you. And if you go walk through it, it moves you even more when you see people have lost everything they've got. But when that number is on a screen or it's on a graph and it doesn't have a face or a name, sometimes I think we get numb to it. And I want to challenge all of us to not become numb to it. Because yesterday afternoon, I spent the entire afternoon in the Rutherford County Workhouse in Murfreesboro. And I want to give a public shout out to Superintendent William Cope, who's had me there multiple times. And by the way, Superintendent Cope stays for the whole program and he participates along with the inmates, just so people know. And I got to have the male and female inmates yesterday as they graduated from their programs, GED, OSHA training, just a really fun afternoon as we ate. They're still in their jail garb, but it was just an awesome afternoon. And one of the things I learned, some of them are getting out the 1st of next year. They're all going to be in jail for prison. They're all going to be in jail for Christmas and New Year's. Almost all of them have family. They have sons and daughters. And a lot of them are scared to get out because they've been in this environment for so long. And now they're going back out into the world and they're scared of what they're going to face when it comes to drugs and relapse. And it really made an impression on me yesterday. It was a great day for me. At the same time, I walked away, challenging myself to create a system that's going to allow them the best chance they have to be successful and be the fathers and mothers and the sons and daughters that they all want to be. Because I got to see them yesterday when they're clear-minded and haven't had anything in their systems for a long time. And guys, they don't look any different than us. I want suffering families in Tennessee to know that we sense the urgency, we care, and we're working hard to make an impact. So I want to close with this. I want to challenge this council to set the tone for Tennessee's response. We need to get our policies in place, and we're going to talk about that to allow us to consider not only other grant proposals, but our statewide overdose reversal proposal at our next meeting. We're losing too many Tennesseans every day. So with that said, Mary, let's move on. I'm Stephen Lloyd. I'm the chair of the Opioid Abatement Council and an internal medicine, addiction medicine doctor here in Mount Juliet, Tennessee.
And hey, everyone, I'm Mary Shelton. I'm the Executive Director for the Opioid Abatement Council. And welcome to all of our guests. Just a quick reminder, if you are not a member of the Opioid Abatement Council, if you could please turn off your camera. And then I am going to get started with the roll call. Armando Fontes.
Here, present.
Brian Buck.
Here.
Casey Cox.
Present.
Sharm Allen.
Here.
Clay Jackson.
Here.
Hey, Clay. Karen Pershing.
Here.
Ken Moore.
Here.
Lisa Tipton.
Here.
Mike Flynn.
Here.
Shane Sexton.
Here.
Stephanie Vanterpool. I just saw her a second ago.
I thought I heard her as well.
Yeah. Steve Lloyd.
Present.
Tim Fournette.
Here.
Tommy Farmer.
Here.
And Wayne Wyckoff.
Present.
And then also wanted to let you know we have the Opioid Abatement Council office staff on as well. On camera is Deputy Director Sage West. And our council is Sam Buckley. So we are here. Turning it back over to you, Steve.
All right, so these are statements that we read around the emergency meeting and the necessity. The Opioid Abatement Council is holding this 100% virtual emergency meeting to expedite the planning and design of the community grant applications process and to ensure that the Opioid Abatement Council office is properly staffed to meet the expected tasks and activities. The OAC finds that these matters finds that these matters to be considered require timely action by the council. The physical presence by a quorum of the members is not practical within the period of time requiring action, and that participation by a quorum of the members by electronic or other means of communication is necessary. And with that said, I thank everyone for taking time out of your days to do this. We have 100% of our members here, and we're grateful for that, right in the middle of the holiday season. So our agenda items for today, we're going to look at the Opioid Abatement Council performance audit. We'll have an update on our community grants. We got 389 proposals, guys, so we got a little work in front of us. We're going to introduce our grant analyst. I've met David. I have not met the other, but I will here shortly. I'm very fired up that they are both drug and alcohol counselors in one form or another. That makes me smile. We're going to have a look at our data analytics vendor, SAS, and the proposal, and we'll need a motion and vote on that. We're going to look at our expedited review process that we put together at our October meeting. We're going to request a new position, a policy analyst, and the need for that position. And then last but not least, a clinical review of our community grants process, and we'll need a motion and vote on that.
All right. Thank you, Steve. So wanted to let the council know that the Opioid Abatement Council is currently under a performance audit. And this is by the Tennessee Comptroller of the Treasury. I found out about this, I guess, about a couple of weeks ago. So a performance audit is an independent examination of the extent to which agencies and departments of state government are faithfully carrying out their programs. And there's a link, and I believe this is true. Every agency and department goes through this at one time or another. So this is to ensure that we comply with the Tennessee Governmental Entity Review Law and to prepare for our sunset hearing. Most likely will be in fall of 2024. It has not been scheduled yet. So as the council remembers, Steve and I went before the legislature last November for our first sunset hearing, and they continued the Opioid Abatement Council for 2 years. So this performance audit will inform our second sunset hearing, which most likely, as I said, will take place fall of 2024. I met with 2 auditors last week or the week before last with some preliminary questions, asking for some preliminary documents like the statute, the remediation list, just to give them an idea about the Opioid Abatement Council's purpose and the operations. So as that progresses, I will keep Steve and the council informed. Any questions from the Opioid Abatement Council members about the performance audit?
Thanks, Mary.
All right, next up, some updates about the community grants. We have received 396 applications from the community. So very excited about all the interest in the community grant dollars, and this represents about 250 agencies. We've prepared a couple of visuals to give a breakdown of those applications. So over here with the blue bars, you can see the applications broken down by the funding year request. So for those applicants that requested 1 year of funding, there were 76 applications, 2 years of funding, 33 applications, and by far the most applications were received for the 3 years of funding at 287 applications. We also broke them down by strategies. Be a good idea to see what folks are requesting for across the state. Overwhelmingly, folks are interested in receiving funding for recovery support at 37% of the applications, followed by treatment at 28%, primary prevention at 16%, education and training at 10%, harm reduction at 7%, and then research at 2%. So it kind of gives you a bird's eye view of the applications that were received. Then a update or a reminder about the timeline. We are still targeting between April and May of next year to make an announcement of the accepted proposals. And we don't have a time period yet or a targeted time yet for the contracts to be effective. We need to work through the scoring process and work through the voting process and see how many contracts there will be, and then we will have an idea about when those contracts will be effective. An update on the application and scoring assignments. I have sent out the list of the organizations to the Opioid Abatement Council members to let us know if they provide any paid or volunteer services for any of the proposers who have submitted a community grant. So thank you for your response. I think we're missing a couple of those, and I will get with you guys right after this meeting. And then thank you to Stephanie Vanterpool for the idea of using a random generator. We are working on developing that right now and making sure that we have all the processes ready to go for that. So we will assign each Opioid Abatement Council member a number, and definitely will plan for the conflicts of interest that they have reported to us. And then the Opioid Abatement Council members will randomly receive applications. So something to note about this, it's not going to be eeny, meeny, miny, mo. So it may be that, Tim, you might receive 3 applications within a week or two, and then you won't receive another application for several weeks. So they may come in stops and starts, but we will be using the random generator to assign the applications. And correct, y'all have not received any applications yet. We're waiting to get those final conflicts of interest so that we know what organizations to assign or not to assign to the council members. And as soon as we have that complete information, then we will begin assigning. And again, for the good of the group, Elizabeth and I are going to be providing technical assistance to the council members as they are scoring. Elizabeth and I are not providing scoring for the applications, and we've divided the council members into 2 groups. And we will be available to help you guys out working in the Smart Simple platform. All right, any questions from the Opioid Abatement Council members about the grants, the community grants process?
Thanks, Mary.
You're welcome. All right, next up, want to introduce our grants analyst, as Steve mentioned just a second ago. Let's see here, David and Mark, if you could come off, or if you could turn your camera on real briefly. We have filled both of these positions. We're very excited to have David and Mark join us. These staff will score the community grant applications, provide program monitoring of the grantees, and serve as liaisons between the grantees and the Opioid Abatement Council. And as Steve mentioned, they both have years and years of experience as alcohol and drug counselors, holding certifications and licenses.
Welcome, David and Mark. Man, we're so glad to have you, and we've hardly got anything to do, so you'll have to twiddle your thumbs for a while.
The office is happy to have the subject matter expertise, and it just brings a good deal of depth and knowledge to the office. So I really feel like it broadens our perspective on the opioid abatement epidemic. All right, thank you, David and Mark. Okay, data analytics. So those were some updates. Now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of the of the meeting today. So y'all heard from SAS at the October 2nd, our last meeting, and I'm coming to you with this proposal again. The Opioid Abatement Council office is in need of administrative assistance with data and information management. And so just breaking this down, this includes collecting, compiling, and creating visualizations of process data. So like those graphics that you just saw, how many applications we've received, how many people are being served. Also collecting, compiling, and creating visualizations for the semi-annual reports that we receive. So the counties, all 95 counties will send in 2 reports a year. And then all of the grantees that we will contract with will send in 2 reports each year. Also managing the outcome data from each community grant. As you remember, each community grantee will tell us what outcomes they are measuring. And it is quite possible that we're going to have 200 different sets or 300 different sets, depending on how many grants we have, or contracts we have, of different outcome measures. Then to evaluate the community grants, looking at outcomes and numbers from across the state, gathering publicly available data and presenting that to the Opioid Abatement Council, and then also assisting the Opioid Abatement Council on where to direct funds based on the needs across the state. So the proposal was sent to each of the Opioid Abatement Council members, and it is also located on our website at the meeting notification. And this is just real briefly about the proposal. We're looking at focusing on phase 1. So there's project initiation, then the post initiation. So the phase 1 will include the data cleaning and preparation, exploratory data analysis, model development, and model evaluation and validation. So that is what we're focused on right now. And here is a sample SaaS dashboard that they've provided to us. This is potentially what we could post on our website that would be helpful for the community, the general public, the Opioid Abatement Council members, the grantees, just about any, and we have lots of people visiting our website and very curious about how Tennessee is spending the Opioid Abatement Trust funds. And then SAS has also included a cost proposal within the overall document. For the first year, the design, implementation, and delivery at $1,465,805. Then moving into year 2 for the continued development and platform maintenance and support at $446,000. And then year 3 for maintenance and continued support, $363,327. So at this time, if I could ask Jeremy and Kay to turn their cameras on. And Steve, I'm going to turn it over to you for questions and discussion with the council, and Kay and Jeremy can answer also, they can also answer questions.
All right. Thank you, Mary. And I don't have Jeremy and Kay on my screen, so y'all have to tell me when you're here, Jeremy and Kay. I'm so sorry.
They're here.
I'm
Okay.
on. Thank you.
Oh, no, I see you now. I figured out how to work my computer, which is pretty amazing. So, Mary, that's a really, really nice overview of what we're talking about, and so we'll just open it up to the council with any questions for representatives from SAS, Jeremy and Kay. So I never know how to interpret silence. Is it good or is it bad? We had a pretty in-depth presentation at our October meeting by not only SAS but a couple of other folks as well. So I'm assuming that people still remember that and don't have significant questions about this right now. So is there anything, Jeremy or Kay, that you would like to say before we move on?
Just as always, just thankful for the work that the council is doing, and we are just we're excited and honored to hopefully be a part of the work that you guys are doing in Tennessee.
Thanks, Jeremy. All right, anybody else on the council?
This is Karen Pershing. I just want to say that I think this is a very critical piece that we need to really consider, because we're not going to know the impact of these dollars collectively if we don't have we don't have initial metrics, again, where we are now in these different spaces. But then also, how are we going to know whether or not we're making a difference with these dollars over time? And so that's going to take a lot of technical assistance and expertise that I'm sure none of us on this council have individually. So I definitely think this is a proposal we need to strongly consider.
Thanks, Karen. I go back to our July 8th, I guess, 2022 meeting. Is that right? When this council first met, and you remember the last word that then Attorney General Slatery gave us, and that was accountability. And his direct words were that Tennessee is a fiscally responsible state, and we want to spend our money on things that we know work. And I agree with Karen. There's not a way to know if things work or not a way to know if we're making the impact if we're not measuring it and then looking at outcomes. And so I think out of all the things that we're getting ready to do, this it may not be the most critical, although I think I could probably make an argument that it might be and guide us in our decision making going forward.
Let's hear. Ken Moore has his hand raised.
Mayor Moore?
I was just going to say amen to what Karen said. I think that's one of the most important things we can be doing, is making sure that we have the data to support our decisions. And so thanks for saying that, Karen and Stephen, both.
I want to, before we move on, let's share one just quick thing from you about experience I had recently, and I won't name the county, but I was asked by a county to come up and watch their consideration for their county dollars, the dollars that went to them in February and March. And so I went up and sat in, didn't say a word, just watched. And they had 10 proposals on the left side of a chalkboard that were all good things. There was not a bad thing up there with a dollar amount from each of them. And on the right-hand side of the board, they had the dollars allocated, basically that they had in their account. And one of the county commissioners looked up and he did some quick math in his head and figured out that if you cut all of the proposals on the left by 15%, they had enough money to fund them all. Again, there wasn't a bad thing in any one of those 10. And so literally within about 15 minutes, they banged the gavel and spent a little over $300,000. And so at the end, they asked me what I thought. And I didn't have a dog in the fight because all of those things were on the remediation list. They met the guidelines and there wasn't a bad thing up there. My question was this: 1 year from now or 2 years from now, how do you know that you spent your money effectively? What were you trying to impact when you spent that money? And you can imagine what the answer was. The answer was crickets. And that's not a bad thing. It's just there wasn't any direction there in what they were trying to impact and what the plan was on how to measure outcomes. And that's something we want to stay against. And I think this gives us the best opportunity we have to not do that. Anybody else? All right, so looking at this, we will need a motion and a council vote to approve into contract negotiations around this.
This is Karen. I make a motion.
Okay, so we got a motion to approve from Karen Pershing. Do we have a second?
Ken here.
Sure.
There's a second by Mayor Moore. I'm sorry, Charlotte. I heard Mayor's verse first. I'm so sorry. Any further discussion? All right, so given that we have a virtual meeting, we probably should have been doing this all along, and it's my fault. We'll have roll call votes on everything. It's the way we do it with the medical board, and I think it's appropriate to do here. So do you mind with a roll call vote, Mary?
Absolutely. Armando Fontes,
Yes.
Brian Buck,
Yes.
Casey Cox,
Yes.
Sharm Allen,
Yes.
Clay Jackson,
Yes.
Karen Pershing,
Yes.
Ken Moore,
Yes.
Lisa Titton,
Yes.
Mike Flynn,
Yes.
Shane Sexton,
Yes.
Stephanie Vanterpool,
Yes.
Steve Lloyd,
Abstain.
Tim Fournette,
Yes.
Tommy Farmer,
Yes.
and Wayne Wyckoff.
Yes.
Correct.
All right, Mary, before we move on, this gives us the ability to negotiate with SAS and bring this back for a vote. Our next meeting won't be till the first quarter of next year. And so I want to put this before the council. I talked to Mary about it just before we started. If we look at timelines and what we need in getting started, I wanted to kind of feel the I guess the pulse of the council, if we would be okay in going ahead and approving this now and this only being brought back to us if there were substantial changes at the next meeting, rather than delay the final approval until the first quarter of next year. And the reason for this, in my mind, and you all can tell me if I'm wrong or not, but I'll definitely succumb to the will of the council, is that right now it'll be a negotiation period until our next meeting. And then we would come back at our next meeting, and then whatever is put in front of us, we would vote on. We just had a unanimous vote, except for me, which I didn't vote. And then that will delay SAS going ahead and getting started. At our next council meeting, we will also be considering grant applications if all goes well, and I think it will. So you get what I'm saying about the timing. So I guess my question to the council, is there would somebody be interested in a motion being made that we go ahead and finalize this now, and that the only reason that we would need to relook at it before it's approved at our next meeting would be if there's substantial changes?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Clay, Dr. Jackson, I'm sorry.
Yeah, fine. I thought I'm a little confused. I thought the motion was to approve, not to negotiate. I mean, I think if the premise that has been spoken by other council members is that we need data before we approve so we know where we are so we can track, then I think the sooner we let these guys get started, the better off we are. We realize it's going to be expensive to do this, but we also realize, as has already been stated, none of us have the individual or collective expertise to do it ourselves and to collect these data in a user-friendly dashboard presentation that's appropriate for our use and for use by other stakeholders within the state. So I'm sorry, I thought we were voting to let these people go ahead. I mean, what will we be negotiating in April or March? I mean, I think we need to go ahead immediately and approve the contract. Let these folks get started.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Jackson. Mary, you want to address that?
Can I ask Sam if he has any comments?
Sam,
Yes. Hey.
Yes.
Hey, Dr. Lloyd, and thank you for the question. So, the term negotiation, I think, is being used kind of out of context here. I think it's more of making sure everything in the contract aligns with what is necessary for the Opioid Abatement Council. And I think Jeremy would probably agree with SAS's perspective. I mean, you need a written contract before they're going to move forward. So I think at this point, I still haven't seen a contract. All we have is a proposal. So I think before the council can fully approve of something of moving forward, or before Jeremy and SAS can actually move forward, we would need to have the actual written contract. That's from my perspective. And, I don't know if we have the Attorney General's office on the call as well, but I do think we need to have the written contract first before SAS can then move forward.
What type of timeline are we looking at there?
This is Jeremy at SAS. Is this was there a question for me? I'm happy to kind of offer up some thoughts. So from the contracting perspective, remember we discussed in the October meeting that all of this is available on the statewide contract. So there is a master statewide contract through the Department of General Services and Central Procurement Office that is already available. And so what we'd be talking about here is essentially just a purchase order or an order form for the software and services that's already been procured, if you will, by the state via the statewide contract. Now, that order form that I was talking about that you don't have yet, we already have, we have drawn up. We can send that over immediately after this meeting for review. But everything that's contained within there, was essentially outlined within the proposal that the council has and is available on the statewide contract.
Thanks, Jeremy. Sam, is there a way for us to approve this contingent upon approval of the written contract by the lawyers? Because none of us are lawyers. Well, some of us are, I guess. I'm sorry to my colleagues who are lawyers, but not something that we're going to be reviewing, in this context. Is there a way to do that so that we don't have to wait till the next meeting in order to approve this? Because I think the flavor of the council is that we want to move forward with this, and that the only holdup would be something in the contract that our attorney, meaning you and the AG's office, wouldn't be comfortable with. And in that case, it could be brought back to us. But if you're all okay with it, then go ahead and move forward so we don't have to wait.
Yeah, I would defer to the council on how they wish to proceed. From my perspective, like I said, you never know. I understand from SAS's point of view, they've been approved by the state. Obviously, I would want to make sure the contract is in line and everything that we have discussed is in line. But if the council wants to move forward that way, then I'll defer to the council.
But Sam, I think we would defer to you that if it wasn't what it would need to be, that you would stop it in its tracks and then could bring it back here for us to look at. Is that how that would work?
Yeah, I'm good with that. As far as, obviously I need to review it. I would get with the Attorney General's office as well. And then, we can move forward.
All right, thanks, Sam, and thanks, Jeremy.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Dr. Jackson.
I move that the council approve proceeding with SAS as our informatics manager according to the proposal that we just voted on. And that it presented by our executive director, pending review of contract by legal counsel. If legal counsel has substantive concerns with contracting, they will not authorize SAS to begin services, but will return to the council in emergency meeting or scheduled meeting for discussion and further action.
Thanks, Dr. Jackson.
Second with a comment.
We have a motion on the floor by Dr. Jackson, and a second by Mayor Moore. Is there any discussion? I heard something.
Yeah, if I might make a quick comment, is this is pretty common practice for us as far as city government, that many times there are things that need to be worked out, and none of them are ever major. But we frequently do this with our city administrator and attorney, and I feel very comfortable in supporting Dr. Jackson's motion.
Thanks, Mayor Moore. Any other discussion? General Allen, you're right in the center of my screen, and you have a look on your face. So I don't know if I'm misinterpreting or not misinterpreting. Do you have anything?
No, I'm just listening. It was hard for me to hear Clay, but other than that, I'm right on
right.
board.
All right, thanks, General. I'm so sorry. You just had a quizzical look. All right, I'll give one more opportunity. Okay, hearing nothing. Mary, can we proceed with roll call vote?
Yes. Marndo Fontes,
Yes.
Brian Buck,
Yes.
Casey Cox,
Yes.
Sharm Allen,
Yes.
Clay Jackson,
Yes.
Karen Pershing,
Yes.
Ken Moore,
Yes.
Lisa Tipton,
Yes.
Mike Flynn,
Yes.
Shane Sexton,
Yes.
Stephanie Vanterpool,
Yes.
Steve Lloyd,
I'll abstain.
Tim Fournette,
Yes.
Tommy Farmer,
Yes.
and Wayne Wyckoff.
Yes.
Right.
All right.
Great.
Thank you, Council. All right, Mary, we can move on to the next agenda item.
All right. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. I will keep y'all posted.
Also, thank you, Sam.
Yes. Thank you, Sam. Thank you. All right. I am going to turn it over to our Deputy Director, Sage West, who is going to review the slides for the expedited review process. Sage?
Thanks, Mary. Hello, everyone. I will be reviewing the expedited review process. So during the October 2nd meeting, the council approved an expedited review process. There were 3 requirements for the expedited review process. 1, that it was of urgent nature in the opinion of the council. 2, the proposing agency represents that they can engage and or begin services to clients or implement their program within 30 days. And 3, that the overall score of the proposing agency application would be 85% or greater. And of course, following the scoring process that was outlined by the council. A proposal would be nominated for expedited review by an OAC member or a member of the OAC staff. Since the meeting, there was a request for an expedited review process for applications that met the following criteria. So they were Chair Counsel Dr. Lloyd has requested an expedited review process for all applications that indicated harm reduction as a strategy, and that met the criteria of naloxone distribution, being a statewide project, linking people to treatment, and having a statewide media component. The OAC office has reviewed all the applications, and there were 29 total harm reduction applications. 3 of the applications met this criteria. As we move forward through this process, there are a few caveats we wanted to share with you. When the council voted and approved the expedited review process on October 2nd, the office was not fully staffed or trained to score the applications. The office had also not adopted a contract template to be able to initiate the program in an expedited fashion. So as the OAC office has the resources to move the applications forward, we'll prioritize the approved expedited reviews. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Lloyd for discussion and vote on whether or not we should move forward with the expedited review process as the OAC office resources are made available.
All right, thanks, Sejal. So this is something we talked about at the October meeting, and Sejal just summarized it really, really well. Due to the timing of our grant application process closing, I felt like that we needed to consider all applications that came in under harm reduction instead of just the one proposal that got put forward. And so there were 3 total that met those criteria of being, the big one being statewide, and then the referral, not just reversing somebody, but having a process in place where we're going to track a referral to treatment, which is, to me, really where the rubber meets the road. So, Sejal, I appreciate that. And we can open for a discussion or a motion, either one. Dr. Vanderpool, you have your hand up.
Yes, I figured. I do have a question. We talked about the criteria for the expedited review, and we have the three applications identified. But the expedited review still means that we go through the process of the scoring process and then bringing to the council for a vote. So the council still has to vote on whether or not to fund the applications. And the other thing I wanted to clarify was that the applications still go into the bucket of money that we have portioned for harm reduction. So for example, if there's an application for $100 million and we only have allocated X million dollars for harm reduction, we cannot approve that $100 million application because it's greater than the amount available for harm reduction. Is that correct?
Okay. That is correct. And our score that we put forward in what we're voting on right now was an 85 or above.
Correct. In order for it to meet expedited review. So but we have not scored these harm reduction ones yet at all. So they are just meet the criteria for they haven't even met the criteria for expedited review. They have just met your statewide criteria and naloxone distribution criteria so that we can then score them. And then if they meet the 85% review, they come to the full council. If they don't meet an 85% score or greater, they don't come to the full council. For expedited review, they go into regular review.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify all of that for everybody, people in the back, all of the above. All right, thank you.
It's great, Dr. Vanderpool. I love it. So this is just a process. We're not approving anything right now. We're approving the process. We had three applications that met that criteria of statewide. Now we go back to the criteria for expedited review process. We do not have anything to bring forward at this time. We're simply voting on our expedited review process today.
Move approval.
I've got a move to approve by Mayor Moore.
Second.
I have a second. I think that was Wayne Wyckoff. Is that correct?
It was.
All right, I'm getting better, Wayne. All right, thank you. Any discussion? All right, being no discussion, Mary, do you mind proceeding with the roll call vote?
Yes. Armando Fontes,
Yes.
Brian Buck,
Yes.
Casey Cox,
Yes.
Sharm Allen,
Yes.
Clay Jackson,
Yes.
Karen Pershing,
Yes.
Ken Moore,
Yes.
Lisa Tipton,
Yes.
Mike Flynn,
Yes.
Shane Sexton,
Yes.
Stephanie Vanterpool,
Yes.
Steve Lloyd,
Yes.
Tim Fournette,
Yes.
Tommy Farmer,
Yes.
and Wayne Wyckoff.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, council. All right, Mary, next item.
Yes. All right, moving along. Okay, policy analyst position request. So I am coming to you guys to request a new position. We have policy needs that have now kind of added up and are definitely on the list for the Opioid Abatement Council office. The OAC office needs assistance with policy creation and management. We've already identified these policies that need to be drafted and adopted. Some of these, just like the expedited review process, if we had a policy that we could bring to the council to approve, then we could move forward on a lot of the processes more efficiently. Then, in addition to creating policies, the office will need assistance with the meeting minutes, ensuring the policies are followed and implemented, the annual review and updating of current policies, researching other states' settlement work, reviewing postings about Tennessee, keeping updated on national settlement events and the AG's office activities, and also being a resource for the Opioid Abatement Council and the office on all items related to policy. So a few points about these, in addition to bullet points. When we were talking about the potential or the possibility of adding a policy analyst, right, there's the work of researching policies, crafting the policies, bringing them to the council for edit, and then bringing them back to the council for approval. That will take some time. For those of you who have developed policies before, it's definitely not an overnight process. But at some point there, we may get to the point where we don't have any policies that are needing to be drafted and brought to the council. But there is a lot going on out in the world as far as what is being published about Tennessee and the work of the Opioid Abatement Council. There are folks that are writing articles and sending them to me, making sure that they are capturing the work of the Opioid Abatement Council. And this is only going to grow. So having a policy analyst that is well-versed in what is the policy and the process and the procedure for the Opioid Abatement Council member would definitely add depth and expertise to the council office. So I have a few more slides around this just to give you some context. Again, our current office staffing, just to bring us all back to where we are. Right up here, these are the filled positions. Me, Sage, Ella, Elizabeth, David, and Mark. We have 3 vacant positions. These are positions that you guys have already approved. An executive administrative assistant. An offer has been accepted for that position, and she will begin at the end of January, which will be very helpful to our office. And then the accountant positions. These are the fiscal monitoring positions for the community grants, and we are aiming to hire these around second quarter of 2024. Delay on that because the community grant, because of the, working through the community grant process, there's not work for them to do yet. I shared a slide that was very similar to this the last time I came to ask for positions from the Opioid Abatement Council. With the policy analyst and the quarter-time attorney that Sam is providing for us, that would get us to 10 and a quarter positions. The total annual cost of salaries and overhead at $1,205,189. And then you can see my formula down here at the bottom. But and of course, this does not count SAS, but that will bring our administrative cost to 2.7%. And Steve, did you have a couple of thoughts around this?
I did. Thank you, Mary. Guys, we worked really hard on this. I'm learning, sitting in this chair as we go along, and And one of the concerns from the council in the past has been what I think of as either overhead / administrative and where we are. So that's why I love this slide right here. We're looking at about 2.7% administrative costs. So I reached out to Commissioner Williams, and I got to work with Marie for a long time. And I sat in these meetings with her before where she had to answer the questions like this. And for the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, I think this number, Mary, correct me if I'm wrong, is around 6 to 7%. And they traditionally have been on the very much lower end of that. So Mary and Sage and I, are looking at doing a tad bit of research and seeing what the percentage allocation needs to be for us to be able to do our work. Obviously, we need some administrative staff, and we need some things like Smart Simple. We kind of got lucky in the fact, that we didn't need to pay for that. We look at what we just approved with SAS. Well, now we have an expenditure there. To me, that would go in this bucket. And really, Judge Sexton, this came about as a result of something you mentioned at our October meeting, is the need to set aside a percentage of that money for us to be able to carry out our duties under this category of administration / what I like to think of as infrastructure. And so hopefully at the next meeting, we can come back to you with some percentages of things, of other I guess, councils or government agencies that do the work we do, so we can see how we compare. I like where we are right now. We for sure need the policy analyst position. There's no question about that. There's 8 policies there. And as somebody who's done that in my own business, and I know Lisa Tipton for sure has, and Karen have done this for years, it's intense work. And that's 8 policies that we've got to have, pretty rapid fire. And it's a lot of work. And I don't think any of us, have the bandwidth to do it, although several of us have the expertise to do it. So I like where we are. I like where we are as a percentage. It's why I wanted this slide to show you, where we are, and hopefully we can move forward with this, because we're going to need it to be able to carry out some of the duties we're going to be asked to carry out here in the very near future. Matter of fact, next meeting. So I'm open for a discussion or a motion, either one.
I agree that it's warranted and very necessary, and there's some value to it. So I understand that there'll likely be some discussion, but I will move to approve the executive director to hire a policy analyst, Vanderpool.
Motion on the floor to approve by Dr. Stephanie Vanderpool.
Second from Shane Sexton.
I have a second from Judge Sexton. Any discussion? All right, Mary, can we proceed with a roll call vote?
Yes. I'm off mute. Okay, yes. Armando Fontes,
Yes.
Brian Buck,
Yes.
Casey Cox,
Yes.
Sharm Allen,
Yes.
Clay Jackson,
Yes.
Karen Pershing,
Yes.
Ken Moore,
Yes.
Lisa Tipton. I didn't hear Lisa, sorry.
Yes.
Okay,
Sorry.
got it.
Yes.
Oh, that's okay. Mike Flynn,
Yes.
Shane Sexton,
Yes.
Shane, thank you. Stephanie Vanderpool,
Yes.
Steve Lloyd,
Yes.
Tim Fournette,
Yes.
Tommy Farmer,
No.
Wayne Wyckoff.
Yes.
Great. Thank you, guys.
All right, Mary, our next item.
Next item is the clinical review for the community grant process. So I am coming to you to make sure that the process that we have built out within Smart Simple is still following and aligned with the thoughts that y'all have around the community grant process. So since the community grant process is an open call for grants, a step was added within the Smart Simple process to ensure that the application is clinically sound, in line with Tennessee's current behavioral health system, and in line with the current funding levels of Tennessee's current behavioral health system. So projects which are not currently funded by the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services or the requested funding is remarkably higher or remarkably lower, those are identified for the clinical review. So the applications which meet this criteria that I just went over for the clinical review, those are then read by subject matter experts and or clinicians from the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services or our sister agency, the the Division of TennCare. The subject matter experts and the clinicians, they add text to the application for scores to review and for the Opioid Abatement Council members to review at the time of voting. The clinical review process does not exclude any application from the Opioid Abatement Council final review. And just to add a little bit more color into this, it's there. I know they're looking at the Opioid Abatement Council members. There's definitely different expertise across the state. There are maybe some proposals that are received from one part of the state, but you're more you have more knowledge about another part of the state. And this is to give a little bit more information about that proposal. I see Stephanie has her hand raised.
I was going to recognize Dr. Vanderpool.
Yes, I had a question. Can you go back to the previous slide, please?
Yes.
When you say that they're going to add text to the application for scores to review, is it going to be very visible that this is a comment added and not the original application so that we can tell that? Okay, thank you.
Yes, it's a totally different text box. It does not change the application at all. It is just extra information. Similar to how we are adding a summary of the application, this will be an addendum like to that summary.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Vanderpool. So Mary, have you finished adding color?
Yes, sorry. Yes,
No,
I'm done talking.
I did not want to step on your toes. All right, I'll open it up for discussion or a motion.
Can we clarify
Chairman,
again who's doing the, I apologize for bumping. Can we clarify who's doing the clinical review again?
Yes, and I can give I believe I can give their names as well.
I don't need the names. I just need to know. Are they council members or non-council members?
Non-council members.
Okay.
We're currently working with clinicians within the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services who have experience with grants for substance use disorder or opioid use disorder.
Mr. Chairman.
Dr. Jackson?
I think I like this because it sounds like we're getting free labor to help us in our process. It doesn't do any harm to the application, and it doesn't do any harm to our power to vote on it. They're just giving us an opinion on outliers, and I think that's pretty good. I think it will help us not to miss something. But as I see it proposed by our executive director, we still hold the power to approve or reject. So this is not the mental health department sort of usurping or bleeding into our authority to approve or reject grants. They're just giving us, and forgive me, Judge Sexton, and those of you that are actually in the legal profession, this sounds like an amicus brief to me, where we just kind of get some information from people that we may use in our judgment if we want to. We don't have to use it. It's just information like an amicus brief.
Thanks, Dr. Jackson. The word amicus scares me, but I'll take your word for it. All right, any other discussion or a motion?
I do have another question. Will this in any way delay the review of the applications that need clinical review from the council?
No, it's not going to delay. No, we plan to move these through very efficiently.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Vanderpool.
This is Karen Pershing. I just have a dilemma here, I guess. I think this is great. And again, this is going to look at clinical type proposals. My concern is, are we doing anything on the prevention side? So our analysts that y'all have hired are both clinically trained. And then of course, this is going to be another clinical process. Is there going to be any input, any expertise on the prevention side that's going to be looking at the prevention applications?
I do believe the team that we have pulled together with the Department of Mental Health does have some expertise around prevention. Sage, anything to add here?
I think it's important to note that it's the clinical and program review too. So it'd be, there'd be the subject matter experts that also have programmatic expertise that they can offer outside of the clinical. So hopefully, Karen, that speaks to it. So there will be folks who can speak to other, things and best practices and even direct to different resources if needed, for the scorers to be able to access.
Mary, Shane Sexton here. Would you mind going back through those slides quickly?
Mm-hmm.
Just a quick overview.
So since this was an open call, so we did not give applications. Like we didn't say, oh, we want X amount of IOP slots or we want X amount of residential beds. So it's like an untargeted community grant or a grant process. We've added additional step to ensure that the application is clinically sound, in line with Tennessee's current behavioral health system, and in line with the current funding levels of Tennessee's current behavioral health system. So projects that are not currently funded by the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, or the requested funding is remarkably higher or lower, are identified for the clinical review. Then the applications which meet that criteria for the review are then read by subject matter experts or clinicians from the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. And I have and/or TennCare there, but we're not using TennCare right now. It's just the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. Both of those departments together fund the public behavioral health system in Tennessee. Then the subject matter experts and clinicians will add text to the application for scorers to review and for the OAC members to review at the time of voting. The clinical review process does not exclude an application from the OAC final review where the voting will occur. And like Stephanie asked, it doesn't change the application at all. It just adds a different text box.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Judge, do you need anything else?
No, I
Okay.
just wanted, when you all started doing amicus around, I alerted and oh, there's something here I'm missing. But,
Yeah,
no.
it made me want to swallow hard. I got scared, but I appreciate it, Judge.
This is Karen Pershing. Can I offer a friendly amendment to this, that we specifically include prevention subject matter experts as well as the clinical?
Well,
Yes.
Karen, you know that I love you, but we don't have a motion on the floor, so we can add it. We can add it and then entertain a motion to include it all.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, Karen.
I'll make a motion.
All right, so I've got a motion from Dr. Jackson to approve what has been presented with the addition from Karen Pershing. Is there a second?
Second, Cox.
All right, I got a second from Sheriff Cox. All right, any discussion? All right, Mary, can we proceed with the roll call vote?
Yes. Sure, I'm off mute. Okay, Armando Fontes,
Yes.
Brian Buck,
Yes.
Casey Cox,
Yes.
Sharm Allen,
Yes.
Clay Jackson,
Yeah, Clay may had to step away for clinical reasons.
okay, Karen Pershing,
Yes.
Ken Moore,
Yes.
Lisa Tipton,
Yes.
Mike Flynn,
Yes.
Shane Sexton,
Yes.
Stephanie Vanterpool,
Yes.
Steve Lloyd,
Yes.
Tim Fournette,
Yes.
Tommy Farmer,
Yes.
Wayne Wyckoff.
Yes.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you,
Mary,
guys.
If I am not mistaken, that was our last agenda item besides public comment. And so, as always, we have time for public comment. So those of you wishing to make public comment, if you will unmute yourself and raise your hand, I will rely on Mary to identify you because there's no way I know how to. So Mary, I will rely on you. I don't know what I'm doing here.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you would like to make public comment, you will see the board across the top of the Teams meeting, and there is a symbol with a hand. If you could just click that, raise your hand, and it will identify you with a yellow hand, and so that we can call on you to make a public comment. And I will, okay, we have one, Chad Elkin.
All right, Dr. Elkin, you're recognized.
Hi, yeah, this is Dr. Elkin, the Tennessee Society of Addiction Medicine and National Addiction Specialist. One of the things I've been looking at recently is when the council compares the total dollars available to be awarded in this round of applications compared to the total dollars requested in the applications, how will the council decide the dollar amounts awarded, given that not all applications will be able to be fully funded?
All right. Thanks, Dr. Elkin. So, Mary, this is a comment, and you know, I don't want to speak out of turn here. So, how should we proceed with this?
Sam? I would like to take it back as a question to make sure that the Opioid Abatement Council office considers this. Sam, anything else we need to do?
Yeah, I think, Mary, if you want to have Dr. Elkin submit, you know, his question in writing, and then we can try to address that from there.
Dr. Elkin, if you could send it to opioid.abatement@tn.gov. And that way I'll have the actual details and ensure that that is considered.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Elkin. Dr. Sherman?
Yes, just to follow on to that, would it be possible to have those questions included on the website, kind of under frequently asked questions, so everyone can see the results of them? Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Sherman. And Mary, I will let you all take that under consideration.
Thank you.
Right.
Let's see here.
Yeah, I figured out how to identify people, so I'm feeling pretty good about
Yeah. So I'm just still seeing, let's see here. If Dr. Sherman and Dr. Elkin can take your hand down.
Okay.
I don't see any other hands raised at this moment.
Okay. And so and Mary, unless I'm wrong, that would conclude our agenda. I would like to say, first of all, thank you for everyone doing this. I know that you have busy schedules. We got it done in under an hour and 15 minutes. And so I'm very grateful for that. And thank you for, thank you for all your hard work. I'd love to thank our Opioid Abatement Council staff. And I would also like to wish everybody a great holiday season, and look forward to our work in 2024. And one last thing, Lisa Tipton, could you call me real quick? Outside of that, my favorite part of the meeting, we stand adjourned.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.